This is a worrisome story. According to Montreal police, there has been a rise in cases of sextortion involving children, especially boys, since the start of this summer. So the Internet Child Sexual Exploitation Unit has actually received over 100 complaints so far this year compared to 30 for the same period last year. So very worrisome, right? How can your child stay safe? What do parents and kids need to know? We're going to find out. Jamie Quinn is a sexuality education consultant at the EMSB, and she joins us now. Thanks for your time again, Jamie.
No problem. Nice to be here.
Let's start by defining what exactly sextortion is.
So basically, sextortion is people being blackmailed online for either for sexual pictures or for money.
Okay, and then particularly with children, oh God, I hate to even ask.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. I would assume asking like for compromising pictures of some sort, and then essentially
exactly.
Okay.
So all the sextorters, what they're doing is creating fake profiles on social media. So that could be through Instagram and Snapchat, which has been the 79% of those. Have been through Snapchat and through Instagram. So they make fake profiles, they lure people in, chat to them, and it can be within minutes or even seconds where, they're accepting those people as friends, they don't know them, and then they're using it to get more pictures. Normally they're asking girls for more pictures, and for boys they're asking for money.
From what I saw in the story, right, I mean, you mentioned girls off the top because I think in the past when we've heard of these sorts of stories, they've been primarily girls. And what I saw in the story that we read just the other day is that now all of a sudden, more and more boys and younger boys are being extorted here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with all of the accessibility now, with PlayStations and Xbox and typically a lot of boys are playing video games, so that's another venue, another place where sextorters can actually access younger boys and girls.
I'm wondering, clearly awareness has to play a huge role here, and perhaps the girls are being spoken to about it more. I don't know. I'm just imagining that there's been more awareness put forth saying, be wary when you're on these apps and don't ever share photos. And we're having those conversations with our girls, perhaps more than we are with our boys. Is that part of the problem here? We need to be having this conversation with boys?
Well, we need to educate everybody on this, right? Yeah. Parents and students alike, and teachers for that matter, because, with the sexuality education program, that's what we're doing. We're trying to educate all of our students to be safe, and we start this at really early ages. So, boys and girls. And I think, with boys, there's so much shame in it because boys are supposed to be those tough, stereotypically, they're supposed to be tough. They're supposed to be, they're not supposed to cry, right? Boys don't cry. So I think that has a big part in it. So they don't necessarily want to admit to actually being sextorted, or it may look like they're weak, if they do admit it. But
so you talk about this in the schools and the fact that education is important, necessary there. What's advice to parents here?
You talk to your kids, right? Get to know who they're talking to online. Who are they adding online? Asking them what friends have they been chatting with, what friends have they been playing with in their video games, and for kids, don't add people on your social media platforms unless you know them, right? Like, you don't want to send intimate pictures, you don't want to do any of that. If you do get caught in that kind of a situation, there's always help. The cybertip.ca, go to your local police, report it. You're the victim here, right? As a child, you're the one being victimized. So don't worry. You're not the only one that it's happened to, but we need to be more aware now, with education and letting kids, boys, girls, everybody know that this exists.
I'm thinking about conversations we've had in the past, Jamie, about age appropriateness, parents not having those conversations. Because I think, I'm like, yes, talk to your kids, have that open dialogue. But, some parents just simply aren't going to do that. And then a child that finds themselves in that situation where sextortion is happening, there's no way they're going to feel safe going to their parents and saying, this happened to me. So that's where cybertip.ca, I guess, can come in. But what about the schools? How are schools handling this when they find out that one of their students has been a victim?
Well, there are protocols in place. It has nothing to do with us. We're the education aspect of it, right? So we're just educating, letting them know what the risks are, what are the consequences if and when this happens. And from there, if anything is disclosed, if there's any disclosure of any sort, it goes directly to the administration of the schools, and from there, it goes to the local police. It's a legal matter, right? So the schools don't really have anything in place per se. They immediately have to go because there's criminal charges that need to be laid.
Okay.
The only thing that could possibly be done is, is taking their cell phones if there's, content on there that the police need to have. That's the only thing that we're allowed to do in our school system.
Okay, so your role is to educate, to create awareness and prevention, I suppose.
Yeah, is part of that prevention or part of that awareness, though, to let kids know that they should tell their parents? Because I'd imagine that first impulse is not to say anything to a parent.
Right, because of the shame, because of what goes behind it. But, as parents and as educators, we'll see if a child, if they seem distracted, if they seem worried, stressed, anxious in a different way that you've seen before, because what happens is they're self-blaming. It's my fault. I did something wrong, right? So there's always kids' help phone that you can always call if you're scared to speak to an adult. Speak to a friend, a trusted friend, or an aunt, an uncle, someone who you feel safe around that can help you.
I'm thinking about how you said that at the school you would be aware, you would notice differences in behavior. I suppose parents need to be on the lookout for that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, your kid best, right? So if you see that they're, on their phones more often than not, or if are very withdrawn, it doesn't mean that something's happened to them, but just pay attention to those little red flags and have conversations with your kids constantly. It's not just like, the one time sit down, let's have a talk. It's a constant conversation.
And we talked about the fact that it's happening younger and younger because kids are getting access to phones and social media younger and younger. What would you consider to be an appropriate age to start having these conversations?
Oh, you can start. Our sexuality education program starts in kindergarten, right? We start talking about safety, about sexual assault, all those things at a very young age, because we need to teach them about their bodies, how their bodies work, that your bodies are going to change. How do you keep yourself safe? What do you do if something was to happen? Like we do this in grade 1, right? So we're preparing them more and more at younger ages. So the more you can talk to your kids at the youngest age you can of their comprehension, at age-appropriate language, start the conversation early.
I'm all for that, Jamie, but like I said, I know that some parents are like, no way, don't talk to my 5 or 6-year-old about anything like this. Is there any connection between the parents not being able to have those conversations and kids finding themselves in these situations? Do you have any information about that?
I don't, unfortunately. I can only assume. But again, kids have so much accessibility because of the internet that it's really hard for us to say, like, They could have heard it from a friend. They could have done.
Sure.
We don't. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder if those conversations are not being had. It would be a very interesting percentage, I think, that maybe have been in those kinds of situations.
Yeah, you can't help but wonder if there's some sort of correlation. And I guess the thing here is, like you said, have the conversations and don't make assumptions that it's not happening to your kid. It could happen to any kid.
All right. There's some good information. Yeah, just, being aware, I guess, is most important. Parents don't think of this kind of stuff, I guess.
Especially with boys, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely with boys. All right. Jamie, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a great day, guys.
You too.
You're worried, huh? That's
Jamie Quinn, sexuality education consultant at the EMSB. Yeah, I'm totally worried.
Yeah.
My daughter's of exactly that age, and then I know she still has guy friends, and I feel like we don't have the conversations with the boys as much as we need to as well.
Okay.
I feel like parents don't feel like boys could be preyed upon in the same way, but they can be.
Yeah, and that's the figures are telling us exactly the opposite, right? They can be and they are.